real.
How do you prepare, man? I really am interested in that. Like, how
Depends on the person.
Okay. Can you give me some examples?
Well, for you, I'm a fan of your work, and I'm a fan of what you've done with your podcast. So I kind of just wanted to talk to you.
Okay.
So there wasn't much preparation with you. I
Okay.
just was like, this guy's cool as fuck. I want to sit down.
Okay.
With other people, like with certain scientists or certain people that are dealing with human rights situations, I want to get an understanding of the scope of the problem that they're addressing and what they've been able to do. Like, I had this guy, Siddharth Kara, on the other day who is exposing cobalt mining in the Congo. Mm-hmm. And it was probably the heaviest podcast I've ever done.
Wow.
It's so intense because it's such an insane problem. It's such an insane problem that powers all of the electronic devices that we use, including electric cars. And it's all essentially coming from slaves.
Wow. Wow.
At the bottom of the supply chain is the poorest people on Earth with no electricity, breathing in toxic fumes because they're banging cobalt out of these mines with hammers while they have babies on their backs.
Holy shit.
It's so heavy. It's the heaviest podcast I've ever done, by far. Like you're choking back emotions and tears while I'm listening to him talk, and I'm trying to figure out how do I steer this? What do I say next? How do I react to this? What more information can I extract from him? And he's just such a deeply committed person that has spent years of his life researching this and risked his life exposing this. And I was really aware of this, so first of all, through coltan, which is the first thing that I was aware that they extracted from the Congo, through the stuff that the early days of Vice, when they worked on it. And that was when I was first exposed to it, that this is such a huge issue. But I had no idea the scope of it until I started researching this in regards to that podcast. And that's one that was heavy. That's one that requires a lot of thinking about the problem and a lot of like looking at what it's actually like there, and these people that have this is what it looks like. This is a cobalt mine in the Congo.
Holy shit.
And the narrative by these electronics companies like Samsung and Apple is that they get everything through ethical sources. Like, you can hear the hammers clinking. So with every hammer that's clinking, they're extracting cobalt and also inhaling this poison dust. It's poisoned their environment, poisoned the rivers, poisoned all the land. It's horrific. They live without electricity. They barely make enough money for food. There's no education. There's no hope. And everything is being guarded by commandos who are trying to make sure that the public doesn't ever find this out. Because at the end of this is the most ethical and moral and progressive companies like Apple, which is so crazy filled with hypocrisy. It's so disturbing that that's the reality of the world we live in, that if you have one of these, somewhere a slave contributed to it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no way around it. It's impossible to get ethically sourced cobalt for these phones. And cobalt is integral to the way the heat management, the way it's the way the batteries work. It's fucked. Like beyond fucked, and people are trying to hide this information, including the people that are running these enormous corporations. They have to be aware of it. Tim Cook has to know about this. There's no way he doesn't. And these people are reaping in immense profits.
How did he get how did he get that information? Like, how did he get that footage?
He went there. He got that footage with his own phone. That's his phone that took that footage. He went there and risked his life, and he had people that were sympathetic to the cause that got him in and got him the proper paperwork. And, they had guns pointed to his head, roughed up by thugs, thinking this is the end, and luckily got through all of it, but barely. And the stories that he tells about that journey and what it's like, and the passion in his message to try to get this out to people, to try to illuminate this problem and to try to shed light on this situation is unprecedented. It's just an incredible person, just an amazing person that has that sort of dedication to try to get that out. And this is a guy that's also worked previously on human trafficking. That was some other things that he exposed in his previous work. So he's been dedicated to trying to shed life on these horrific situations in the world for decades.
God bless him.
Yeah, God bless him.
Wow.
Heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Wow.
You know, so that's how I prepare. It depends entirely on the person. With a comedian, there's no preparation at all.
Right.
Like
It's
maybe
gonna
I'll
be
listen to their podcast. With fighters, it's pretty easy because I'm a gigantic fan.
Right.
And generally, when I have someone on, I'm very, very aware of their resume and what
Sure.
they've done. You know, so that's how I do it. It depends on the person.
And what about your what about your level of like enjoyment? I mean, are there times where it feels like a slog, or is there times when are there times when you're not into it? Are there times when you're extraordinarily excited about someone? I mean, imagine it runs a gamut, or do you try to keep it? Is there something that you do to sort of have a steady and healthy approach to it?
Well, hopefully I know enough about the person's ability to communicate that it's not going to be a slog. And there's very few slogs. But I've had a few where I took a chance on authors and had them come in, and unfortunately they talk the same way they write, where, you know, people write, they're very deliberate and slow, and sometimes people talk deliberate and slow. That's brutal.
Yeah.
Because like as a listen, it's very hard to follow along. Right. And so I'm trying to like pick up the pace, trying to do something, aware of my own attention span, to try to just juice it up and keep it going.
And are you in that moment, are you thinking about the audience, or are you thinking about you in the moment? Like, fuck, this is miserable,
This is
bro.
miserable. Yeah. I'm like, if it's miserable for me, it has to be miserable for other people, because
Totally.
I'm here. I'm looking in this person's eyes.
What the fuck?
And also, I'm curious about what they're talking about. So I wanted to bring them in here because I have a personal interest in whatever this subject is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But most people, it's not. You know, the weird question that people always ask, like, who's your favorite guest, or who is a person that you would want to get on the most? And I have the same answer. There's no one.